Blast off! Wait, no, is that the wrong team?
That's hilarious.
Good
Inside
morning,
joke.
good afternoon, and good evening, dear viewers, audience members, and the like. Thank you for joining the Actuate podcast, where we build in public. Today is a lovely, at least on my end for once, Seattle May. It is currently May 5th, 2024, as time of this recording. We're hot off the heels of May the 4th be with you. And yes, no? Okay, great. It is actually a
Wrong
good
series.
it's actually a good day in Seattle. It's about 16 degrees C. I'll let you all figure out that in Fahrenheit. And we have again another round of great topics that we want to bombard the audience with. We're gonna go lightning round this time. Andrew, do you want to start us off with anything on the docket? What do we have for topics today? I,
Yeah,
I don't read things, so I leave Andrew to do most of that work, and I just come in guns blazing.
yeah. He says that, but I'm usually the one that is
I make him
very
feel better.
impromptu. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. I
Mhm.
appreciate that. No, so we actually started talking about something right before this, and we're like, we should talk about this on the podcast. And I did a little bit of planning, which is nice, and I documented a few lines here. Thank you for the inspiration, Chris, and for bringing Open the Notion page and starting that initiative. Um, but something interesting happened today that I've been waiting on for quite a few months, which was I asked my Google Assistant. Sorry, I didn't want to activate that for everybody, but the G Assistant for a task. I was in the kitchen prepping for dinner, yes, early in the day. Won't talk about how they removed recipes from their kitchen displays, but asked it to set a timer or something like that. And it gave me a suggestion, and it asked me, would you like to switch to Gemini? Finally, an assistant company is integrating LLMs for practical use, because I have been going through the painstaking degradation of quality that Google Assistant has been taken. And in the back of my mind and in the quiet conversations with my wife, just complaining about the small, insignificant problems around me, I feel that Google Assistant has been getting worse and worse and dumber, and to the point where it's been like frustrating. We're questioning even having the system anymore. And I was under the speculation. My conspiracy theory was, when the massive layoffs started to happen, somebody probably set it back a few versions. Still kind of think that's true. But I brought this up to Chris, and he made an interesting point or a potential observation or speculation. So I'll pass the mic over to you so we can actually dive into that conversation, because we paused it to have it live.
So we have basically the thing is, like, there's a difference between like a malicious change. I think it's intentional, but I don't think it's malicious. I think what we're seeing, just like the what we feel, is a degradation of the quality of the search results, and I think there's some good objective data I've come across uh, on those changes to Google. Is Google is catering their results and their output to a different audience. We're noticing it because we have a very particular workflow, and our threshold for annoyance and usability is very different than the average person. So maybe
Very
the
low.
average person, sorry, the average user is actually okay with the changes that are occurring. When I go into my car and go like, hey, it's like, send a message to Andrew on Teams, and it's about to send on Teams as a text to him on his phone number, and I was like, no, that's not what I want.
Yeah. There have been many commands where I've done just like basic searches, and it will have a problem understanding me. My wife says that I may have, in my frustration, spoken down to it a couple times, and maybe it learned that it doesn't like me anymore. But they're like basic actions that I'm seeing that they used to perform that they don't. But it almost makes me think like it might be a Mandela effect, where maybe it never actually did those things. And because we're advancing so quickly through the technology of these more advanced LLMs and AIs that go real deep in conversation and do bring up contextual information beyond what these assistants have before, there also may be this distortion of reality of how I used to interact with it versus my expectations now because of how I interact with other assistants or artificial intelligence
Well,
platforms.
the bar is higher, so the frustration will be the threshold for your frustration will be lower. When a new product comes on to the market and there's a cultural shift, right? When the car entered the market, are the things that we put up with horses and other pack animal transportations suddenly became more grievous.
Yeah.
Right. Now we have EVs on the market. People are realizing there are things that we shouldn't be living with. Even among our older audience members, and I'm not trying to say we're old or young. I'm just saying people will renormalize their own memories. If you look at car data, cars are now today's cars, combustion engine cars, are far quieter than they were in the 80s. Road noise is low. Everything is quieter than it used to be. But now EVs have come in the market. Even today's car noise, which is like about 80% quieter than they were in the 80s, just by chance, is now even more unacceptable.
Yep. Also, check your tires. Tires are a very large contributor to road noise.
Please change your winter tires for the non-Floridians.
Oh, yeah.
Take them off. It's already May.
Too.
Please. I heard a couple driving yesterday. No, you take them off. They're bad for the road. They're there for a very specific reason. Take off your winter tires. Take off the studs.
That's hilarious.
I pay my taxes. I don't. So.
The tangential rants.
Yes. So I actually don't use voice assist. Andrew is a
I live with that.
Much more avid user. He's probably never seen me do a text to speech.
Nope.
Outside of a car.
Very true. Yeah. You do utilize it when you're driving because it's safer.
Yeah. But I don't I'm not talking to my phones. I literally don't want my thumb swiping around. I use swipe.
Yep.
Is to me not only faster but more private. I don't like people knowing anything in public what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how innocuous. Like if I tell someone I love my mom, I don't want to say that into the phone. For other people around me to hear. But I'm not saying other people shouldn't. I'm just saying that's my own preference. I don't use voice assistants as often, and when I do, it's very, very productive, and I've curated mine. And I can tell you, and I don't talk down to mine.
I've only done it on a couple occasions. I don't curse. It's just like the snarky comments. Like, I'm just here to help. And it's like, but are you? You know?
Yeah, I don't even. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna move on. But I'm a big home automation enthusiast, so I have my setup tied to my home assistant, and I can then relay through Google Assistant to then do it. And I've noticed it drops out more. It misinterprets and fails at more endpoints more often in the last year. Something is going on that I don't understand, but I suspect it is also delivering more information to more casual users that are more pertinent to their lifestyle and uses that we're not seeing. As UX experts, we have to balance our own enthusiast nature for technology
Yep.
and what is actually a user using, right? We don't necessarily want to expose like, hey, set up your API endpoint and your webhook, and it was like, oh, you lost me 8 words ago. So, but I do suspect that there are intentional changes that are not working out for us, but might be working out for other users. I won't say it's malicious, um, because these are gigantic conglomerates. I don't think that there's enough people to like sabotage. There's no individual that like sabotage that another individual couldn't overwrite
Maybe.
as easily.
Yeah, and selfishly and just in standard human nature, how we see the world through our lens and with our paradigm,
Yeah.
I think that I use it dynamically enough to touch those edge use cases of the more common user as well. Anyway, it's interesting to observe.
Yep.
I'm very interested to see where they go with it. I'm excited. I have converted over to Gemini. The two things that it does not cover, Chris, bad news for you, the automations that are run through Google Assistant are not compatible with Gemini. We'll say yet. And the second one is no live translation of conversation, which I've only used a handful of times with my wife's parents. So once I learn the language, which I'm studying now, don't care about it anyway. So I've switched over, and I'll keep you posted with some tangential ramblings on how that goes. But I have high hopes for it.
I'll figure a way. I'll make it happen.
I know you will.
Yeah.
You definitely will.
I'm more excited about what my excitement about all of these things. It is much more on the line of how societal consumers or consumers in society raise their bar. That's what excites me the most.
Yep. Yeah.
When things like Apple's assistant, Google's, Amazon, it doesn't matter, are seen as woefully inadequate when they were mind-blowing 5 years ago. Let's say 7 years ago. Time flies.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. So,
Was it only 5 years ago?
I think it's been longer, honestly.
I think it's been longer.
I don't remember. Jamie, look it up.
Yeah, so I believe Siri kicked us off.
2011, over a decade.
Yeah, there you go. And I think Siri kicked us off.
Can't say the words.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no.
See, that's the problem. I'm so sorry, everyone. I am. Hopefully, you're not listening to this on a speaker and it's quietly on your headphone and you're laughing to yourself because people have done it to you intentionally. Anyway, I am excited about that as well. It's good to see that we're now in the transitional, the actual middle of the transitional phase. I'm excited to see where it goes. And yeah, we'll take it from there. The next topic that I had up for us for a normal, natural conversational transition had to do with kicking something off from the ground up, starting a new idea, and if you should just dive into the deep end and burn the boats and cut your plan B and just do it on your own versus create a more seamless transition for yourself, staying where you're at while you work on your side hustle till your side hustle replaces your main jam. You want to lead the convo on that with us, Chris? Because I think you had some great insights and then
spicy takes.
Spicy takes, and then we'll throw some oil in that hot pan. How we're doing things.
RP1, it's space themed. Yes. Rocket propellant 1.
Definitely rocket propellant, contrasting perspective to how we're actually building here. So,
okay. A bit of a contrarian take, maybe not contrarian in all circles, but it's definitely to some venture folks. So Andrew and I are non-traditional. in the space of venture, because we're looking at being co-founders in a box. We really want to elevate the companies within our portfolio and really make sure that they mature and grow, and well beyond like we sign a check and we find the vendors and we build really, no, that's all we have all of that, but we're saying we will be your product expert as well. As product people, we get we can jump into any space. Andrew and I really didn't have space going into Blue Origin.
Nope.
I think I had, even though you lived on the coast, I think I had more as an enthusiast. But realistically, I'm not an aerospace engineer. But it doesn't really matter where you place a UX person at all, right?
Yeah, fun story. When I got hired, they actually brought me in at a lower tier because they were worried that my lack of manufacturing experience could potentially be a hindrance. And I think it was within the first 3 months, it might have been 6. I'd gotten a promotion and a raise into the role that I had originally
old
had
aerospace is
for.
like a lot of physical manufacturing is like, you don't have experience in a thing, therefore it's like, no, we're here to read between the lines and help magnify and amplify the signals between your noise, and wash away any type of doubt and dirt that has built up that is currently slogging you down, especially cultural ones.
Fire. Love it.
Yeah. So
100%. And problem solving is literally the same in every single industry.
Yeah. Most of our coworkers that we had on our magnificent team did not have aerospace experience, except for like one. One gentleman worked on like wind turbines. Another worked on
well, there was one of them that was very deeply ingrained in space.
Just one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They worked on different aspects of the new NASA spacesuits, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. But it's like wind turbines and medical devices and voice assistants and cruise ships and ed tech and health, other like random things. And it's like, cool. And we're still like building an ERP and a manufacturing system, and these things are all interchangeable. So what I'm saying is, counterculturally to many VCs that want their startup venture people that they invest in to go in 60, 100 hours a week and go, you must pound the sand and do all of these things. We say, no, you're going to break yourself, because there's only so many productive hours in a week. And VCs are very into themselves as well. And Andrew and I were talking about this it came up in a happy hour. Yeah, it ended. Another spicy hot take. We're honestly not busy enough to warrant the ego that we have. That the culture within VC has.
Yes.
We want to we're tempering ourselves and saying we're not as special as you make us out to be, right? And neither should necessarily the founders of the companies going like, right now, if I'm talking to a founder who has an idea and they're working a full-time job, I actually want them to work the full-time job while they're thinking about their idea and they're in the discovery phase. And I want them to go, hey, if you're working 40 hours here and you suddenly worked another 40 hours magically on your startup, right? Versus say 20 hours on your startup versus 5 hours on your startup. In 1 month, in the next 4 weeks, will your 40 hours be further ahead than your 5 hours? If no, only do the 5 hours.
Or find whatever middle ground makes sense to you.
Find what is most productive, because you're only shooting yourself in the foot saying like, I need to commit 100 hours a week. I need to drop everything I do. I need to burn every bridge. I need to make my lifestyle harder. I need to make it harder on my significant others, my partners, my children, my friends, my community, so I can focus on this thing at 200%, 250%. And many VCs we talk to love that mentality of this hyper grind Sigma mindset. And all we see are people not moving the needle. Go to Coachella. Go take a break. Go do your
You need the
thing.
balance.
It's
Even
not,
if you are pushing 80 hours a week and it magically is very focused and tactically productive because you're focusing on the right things, still go outside,
touch
take a
grass.
run, spend time, touch grass, pet a dog, laugh with
I
friends.
can't pet the dogs, but yes.
You can't.
Not
Pet
your
a
dogs.
creature that you can or observe from afar.
Yeah.
They're still full of love.
Maybe a kitty, but take some Allegra, some Zyrtec. Not sponsors.
Yes, not sponsors. Or shout out to our reptilian friends. Pet a lizard. Grab a gecko. Feed some fish.
But basically, my advice from observation was, as you find more productive hours, as your startup ramps up, because eventually, hopefully it will, then you scale back your full-time job. When you can no longer do both, then you must make decisions on how to balance those. And it might come sooner than later, but sometimes it's not immediate.
Yeah. And on that note as well, if you're focusing on the right activities, it is more likely to come sooner than later. But it will surprise you 99.9% of the times how much you don't know when you think you might understand until you're actually in it.
Yeah.
So you also don't want to spend a painful amount of the time that you want to be productive learning what being productive means, doing the thing that you want to do.
If you think that, oh, I have an amazing new gadget or widget, and then you say, I'm going to spend the next 100 hours getting the handle right on this widget, the surface texture on this thing. I need to maximize the production. I need to minimize the production cost and maximize the output. And then you find out later that no one actually wants the handle on this device. And you go like, oh, okay. I could have spent a couple of hours figuring that out instead of 100 hours. This isn't a hobby, right? No. If it's a hobby, you do whatever you want time-wise. It's not a sink. It's your love and passion.
Yeah.
People conflate their hobbies with their startup far too often.
Mm.
And their mentality in their hobbies and their inefficiencies in their enthusiasm for their hobbies with how startups work. Yes. Startups are companies. They can come from your hobbies, but once you make that mental leap into startup land, it is no longer something that should be going, how do I make this successful? Don't carry the mentality of, look, I've been working on designs for a family branding project for 8 months now. I have not touched it in 3 months. I have not opened Illustrator. I've been thinking about it in the meantime, slowly, surely. If this was a job, I would have gotten done in a week, full stop. Right. But right now, I'm literally taking pictures of flowers and just letting my brain stew on it. This is not productive in a work environment. Yeah, I would have just gotten it done, and I would have lived with it. End of story. It would have been fine. It would have actually been probably great. But I'm trying to get it to excellent. Very different.
What's the quote? Perfection is the death of progress.
Perfection is the enemy of good.
Enemy of good.
Yeah.
I like perfection is the death of progress too.
That works. So yeah, to that point, there are VCs that will and maybe in some instances that is actually warranted. right?
Yeah.
If you're building physical manufacturing goods and every hour that you spend is an hour of productivity, like on a
Yeah.
manufacturing line, and you're one of the sole people on the manufacturing line, you're like, okay, I'm going to do the heady work for 40 hours. I'm going to then bust my butt for another 40 hours on the line. Look, I'm not going to argue against that. I wouldn't suggest it. I would suggest hiring people, but I
Yes.
understand there are circumstances,
Yeah.
but we deal with tech and software and thought
Well,
and knowledge work,
and hardware, and we do get that.
but it's all
Although,
knowledge work based.
yes, yes.
Right. The
Although
people
I will
building
say,
the engines at
mhm,
Blue are essentially on a manufacturer. They're like manufacturing line, right? And then the engineers who still work
yep,
with hardware are sitting at their desk at home on Creo or whatever CAD software and doing
yep,
whatever they want, right?
yep,
But just like other engineers, software engineers, 100 hours a week is not going to do more than 40 hours a week. So it might do less. It might do negative work. We're
exactly.
going to push bugs and stuff. I've done this. I've done 100-hour weeks. And by the end of those, um, it was very concerning how much bad stuff I was producing that
Mm.
I had to have to go back later and correct.
Yeah, you don't know it when you're in it, but you feel it
Oh no,
afterward.
I knew it when I was in it. I was like, I'm just
Oh,
stacking these problems right now. But Cornell needs
well,
this
at
thing.
least you knew, right? Because it is also very possible to not be aware
Oh,
of the
absolutely.
degradation of the quality of your work over time
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
my grammar, like my grammar was decreasing
Mm,
by the end of the week.
interesting.
I was like, oh, I'm like hallucinating words every.
Pericusia, everyone.
Yeah,
One thing I will note, even in getting deep into the work, even if it is very productive, tactical, you've validated it as the right work to do, and you're moving the bar forward, make sure that you're moving toward the right goal, right? Like validate your assumptions up front, challenge what you perceive as fact, make sure you're solving the right problem, to go back to that handle reference, because you don't want to build a thing that fits a small need unless the purpose is to build the thing for that small need for yourself and not to scale it into an actual business or
yeah.
enterprise.
Just
Uh,
try to
hobby
figure
versus
figuring out how to build
startup.
the right thing is hard, but
Yes.
it is necessary. And those steps, that's an entire conversation. Like
Yes.
um, the it's not product market fit, right? This is beyond.
Nope.
No. This is
If you're looking for product market fit, you've
that's a
gone
different.
too far.
Yeah,
Well, I would even say you've probably gone too far. It's like, hey, we could do this thing, and then how do we get the people to realize it's the thing that they need?
yeah.
Gone too far.
You got too far. Um, and so as people in this space now that we've elevated ourselves to this kind of weird venture status, we're trying to take our lessons and our ethos from our days in product,
Yep.
our continuous days in product.
Yeah.
For we don't want to be VCs that drop the ball and are smelling our own
Flowers.
flowers. Um, this conversation came up during a happy hour. Someone was saying to me, "You know, I don't like about VCs, but I like about you guys that you're really responsive." And I was like, "Tell me more because this is very, very interesting. I feel like we're not being responsive enough." Um, he says VCs claim to be very busy, and they are. They are. But other industry professionals are busier, and we demand their perfection on timeliness. Doctors and lawyers, especially. Yes, it's a service based thing. But if a lawyer says, "Hey, I have a 24-hour SLA," and they don't make it, they don't charge me, right? But we hold the purse. We dictate
Mm-hmm.
the terms, and we're like, we're gonna dangle this carrot. Oh, you sent us an email and we didn't respond. How many emails do I get in a day? How many emails does my lawyer get in a day? I can tell you, our lawyer probably gets 8 times more emails than we do,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
they respond. We are not their only client.
Yeah, it's actually our just speaking personally, our lawyers are impressively responsive. Shout out to you all.
Yes.
if you just so happen to be listening to this.
So it's really like a testament to like we're trying to be responsible. Um, even just the acknowledgement goes a long way. It's like, hey, we'll get back to you. Thanks for the email, blah blah blah, or thanks for the text. I'm
Yep.
really trying, and we're getting better at it. We dropped the ball,
Yeah.
right?
I've got a few things that notably, especially over the past month, have fallen through the cracks that
But
I've consciously
this
gone
is our
back.
evolution
Exactly.
as people in the space.
Yep.
We're admitting to it. It's a thing, right? It's not to say you're supposed to be perfect all the time. Even the
No.
lawyers drop the ball on certain things, but
True.
it's under but knowing and admitting to it, like taking ownership of that, is really critical, right? But to say that you're better than your portfolio companies and they're vying for your time, we're here to build the portfolio companies. We're here to be their partners in crime.
We're here for them
Um,
at service.
so when our portfolio company comes to us and we have an urgent need, we need you to review the deck.
Yep.
I push some things out to review the deck. Full stop.
Yep. Yep. Same. We've
That's
actively been doing that over the past few
we
weeks,
don't get
actually.
paid for that,
Nope.
right? We're investing in it, right? We're investing in that future that hopefully will then pay out. But it's not like an immediate like, okay, cool. I think that's the ethos that we're trying to bring.
Yeah.
That change. There are
Yeah.
other VCs that we know that are actually very good, but I would
Yeah.
say
They're phenomenal
phenomenal. But I would say a lot of them
within the
don't
industry
like
at
to hear
large.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. Within the industry at large, there's been a couple people that we've struck up and been excited in conversation with just to and I would say VCs and other aspects that support the VC industry. Once they've gotten to a point of status where we've kicked off a conversation and they make a decision a few seconds in that they're not interested. It goes cold. It's very tactical, transactional. It's like very much, I don't have the time of day. And I'll tell you what, as a human, I don't have the time of day for people like that. So I would expect that we need to show up with that openness, with an open ear, with a transparency of communication, the best that we can, right? For others that we intend to be a resource for. In general, right? Because I get reached out to all the time on LinkedIn, being pitched on random services and stuff. I at least make it a point to be like, "Hey, not interested, not a good fit." Just a real quick response because they're just doing the work, right?
Look, we went out to so many of these events over the last few months, and
Yep.
these take like all these events are like all day events. Like
Yes.
it's like Utah Tech Week. We were seeing like other venture folks there jumping and like schmoozing at events, eating, drinking, and you tell me that this is productive. It's productive in
It's a
networking.
different type of
It's a
productive. Yeah.
different kind of, but to say that, oh, I'm at this event, I can't text back. Andrew saw me. I was always texting back someone. There was time in between the walks, between a thing that I could be messaging someone. I could be attentive to our network. But others are like in real life with others, and then they turn around and they have the audacity to go like, "Oh, we're busy. We're just partying. That's all we were. That's a lot of what we were doing."
Networking, Chris. Networking.
That first night in Utah, you can't tell me that was.
No, 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 no. Well, it was right. It's building relationships, but it's not so much so that if something a need actually arises that requires attention, that you can't make time for it. And I think that's the point you're trying to make.
Yeah. Um,
And on that note, transitioning into our next
Productiveness.
topic, and talking about productiveness versus busyness. So the things that you spend your time on. I have been
Sending way too
swamped.
many emails.
I have been swamped for months now, I would say. And my week usually starts or ends on like a Thursday or Friday. I look at the week upcoming and be like, okay, I got a few good meetings. I'm moving things forward on the things that need to. But it'll feel fairly open. By the time that Monday hits, the first half of my week is usually booked pretty substantially. And by the week's end, I've got a full week. There are other needs that are starting to arise as we're engaging on these different initiatives now, right? Fundraising kicked off, full-fledged. Have to block out time to send emails. Thought it was going to be a little bit more automated, created a GPT to help refine that process and everything like that. It's interesting because probably spent like a day-ish in getting that to a good place and going back and forth with a team and spending a couple of days like, how's this feel? Actually getting into the work and using it. It's a very light touch. And granted, the upfront work was beneficial, but there's more value in actually doing more tactical research as opposed to trying to shortcut that and automate that during the outreach. And it proves to be more fruitful and less time consuming. Just do it myself. So point being, there will be tasks that feel like they're productive and moving the needle, but it is not as productive as just doing the thing. You'll get the immediate feedback. You'll get the insight that you need to be able to refine it and pivot and continue to evolve and get better and faster and harder, better, faster, stronger at doing that thing that needs to get done that actually moves the bar forward. So I've found that with the LP outreach. We've had the list for I think 2 weeks now. And it took me a week and a half to really dive into it and send the email. And it's this underlying something. And I don't know if it's because in my mind, having meetings and conversations feels more productive, that we're moving the bar forward, which those conversations need to happen. Those meetings need to happen. It is moving the bar forward on some things. But over a higher priority item of bringing money in for the fund, questionable. Because the initiative that we are working on that's dependent on conversations, it's a cornerstone of our business model, which I'll talk about in a second. But I personally am, and all of this, I think, speaks to the value of self-reflection, self-awareness, the ability to have conversations like this and awareness like this with yourself and with those close to you, with your team, transparency and communication so that you're not alone and you have people, one, that could tell you that maybe you're not doing the right things, and or two, you can at least talk about if you're noticing it. Great thing to put in place and great thing to look for in people that you surround yourself with. But I personally am noticing that I need to get better at scheduling time and sticking to the time that I schedule, like schedule meetings for myself for dedicated working time. Have no problem doing it for our portfolio companies. Like Chris was saying, have no problem doing it with reaching out to and keeping conversations going with other people. But when it comes down to the work that I need to do, because it's a different type of work, I'm noticing that I need to actually schedule heads down time to do things like that now. But the LP outreach is going great. The conversations are starting to pick up. I'm actually traveling to New York next week. So like things are moving forward, which is fantastic. It's not like I'm not doing anything. And it's very easy to tell yourself, oh, but here are these results and we're getting traction. So it feels like you're doing the right thing. But are you really being as productive as you can with that time? Are you really putting in a solid, focused 40 hours a week on the production line as the engineer of your results with business that you're building, with the work that you're putting in? And how, if you need to step away after an hour or two for 5, 15, 30 minutes to go outside, catch some fresh air, play a board game or card game, read a book,
Touch grass.
meditate, touch grass, do it. But go back inside and get back to it, right? So that's been a really nice balance that I've had, and it's helped me move things forward. And I have a team that reminds me to do that. Thank you, Chris. Just analyze it, be aware of the things that you're working on. Just ask the question, even if you're like, yeah. Just follow it up with, but is it the most productive thing that I could be doing that's going to get me the goals that I'm working toward right now? Is it working toward the sale? Is it working toward the income? Is it working toward hiring that person that you need to do the work that you can't? Is it bringing money in the door? Is it bringing the business closer to becoming a business or more sustainable so that you can actually scale?
It also comes down to different people's styles. Like Andrew and I
Yep.
are have a very different working styles, and I don't have
Yeah.
problems jumping in and throwing out garbage as a first pass. Um, and it so within the niche of designers, I'm a I've been told I'm a bit more rare breed where I'm not hyper fixated on details.
Yep.
I have a high attention to details, but not a hyper
Yep.
fixation.
Yep.
Um, where I go like this is wrong. This like I need it to be more perfect until I can send this. I was like I'm accounting and it's like is the deck done? Like the transition from our design expertise as product professionals, which is going to be our foundation for forever,
Yep.
into this kind of executive leadership, this facilitator, and go like, we're losing out by not sending out these emails,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right? Whether sending out a truly trash email will hurt us, right?
Yeah.
But the last 20% of the quality of an email
Exactly.
is absolutely going to take all 80+% of the time.
Yep.
I built up my skills as someone that's gone through a lot of startups and things, going like, let's just do the 80%. I force myself to get to a point where I throw away that unnerving feeling, go like, here's the 80%, go. We can work on
Yep.
the 20% later. That's where the refinement is. But if you're refining in a vacuum, which is what a lot of
Oh,
designers do,
don't ever do that with anything, by the way. Just drag somebody in sooner than you think you need to
yeah.
for your own sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the outreach goes, it's going right. Our first and
Yep.
on top of that, I'm not being hard on Andrew for the time delay for the current outreach. I was actually very mindful of that. He's probably wondering like, why didn't Chris hound me on the LP outreach in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Um, it's like something's wrong. Is because our first batch was kind of just like a random scrape, and our current batch is a highly curated list.
Very highly curated. Yeah.
So our target profile is higher, and so our attention to it and our reward for crafting these messages needs to be higher.
Yep.
We're not going to automate
Nope.
deeply
Nope.
the outreach like we did the first time. And the first time we had like a 0.2% response,
It might have been lower.
right?
I had gotten some, just
Outside
so
of
everybody
LinkedIn.
knows.
LinkedIn has probably the highest response rate,
Yes.
but to,
These are lists that I got from people that have posted on LinkedIn or online that were like old databases. Don't use them. It's such like we spent Chris went
50%.
through
50% were dead sites.
and he automated that, thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness.
I automated the detection of dead sites first. And then among the dead sites, 50% of those, so that means 75%. So 50% of the remaining 50% were uh, immediate bounce back. So the contacts that
Yep.
were on there no longer were there, or the email got flagged or whatever. Another 10% went to spam. So now of like our multi-thousand contact list, only a couple of hundred went through.
Yeah.
But
And
our
we
current
got 2
list,
responses.
our current list has like no bounce backs.
Yeah, no. It's super high caliber, and there's like 4,000 contacts on it, which is nice. We've narrowed it down to focus on the region that we want to and the types of people that we want to be specific with the type of people that you want to reach out to for what you want to reach out to them for. To be deliberate about that, spend a little bit more time up front so you can curate the quality of your conversations.
And just to be mindful for anyone listening, this is not a standard sales thing. This is not like I've done marketing automation work, and you do the warm up, you do the drip and the nurture, and then you do these workflows, and then the branching tree structure with everything and how you like craft messages. This is not it. You warming up doing a warm. We are sending cold emails, but getting them to warm up and doing like I forget these like services that have warm up systems that we don't see is going to it helps at all.
No.
This
Had a
is
few
not a sales. This is
conversations.
not a standard sales funnel.
Yep.
So we're not. We don't have like what's your playbook? It's like who cares? Each one of these are
Yeah.
boutique.
Yep. Yep. It'll take longer than you think it will to build the list unless you spend a lot of money on those platforms that are out there that just have those databases curated and managed. No way around it.
Yep.
And you're reaching out to a person about a thing. And don't be that person that is just sending out copied and pasted messages. Talking to a human.
Yep.
Make some dots connected. Why are you even reaching out in the first place, right? What's the thread that you see there? Communicate that. And it's just a person to a person.
Yep.
And I'm going to wet the palate for the conversation for next time as we close out, because I think this is a great thread through everything that we're talking about. But the expectation of timing to execution, whether it's building a startup, whether it's doing sales outreach, whether it's building a brand new product, whether it's solving a problem, whether it's doing research, you might convince yourself that if you have the right people and or the right resources, that you could do things significantly faster than everybody else does them. You might get there, but as you're starting, it's going to take a lot longer than you think it will.
Yeah, don't
Give yourself some
really
grace for
don't
that.
confuse all of the people on LinkedIn posting their success stories, because the people that have mild lukewarm success aren't posting anything. Some of the most successful founders that sorry, most there are so many not unicorn millionaires that are born from startups. Like the long tail is far more interesting than whatever else that you're looking at, and they're never posting anything.
Yep. There was a YouTube video that I watched the other day about somebody who's been building their startup in public for the past couple of years. They've had good success. They've raised money. And he was sending out cold emails to a handful of billionaires to raise a little bit more capital, try bring some interesting people onto the cap table. And he's spinning up these emails like nothing. And that's what got me to realize, one, where is that line of productivity versus perfection? But I realized, and he made this comment, because of the people that he's reaching out to, the connections and relational communication he's able to make with these individuals is at a higher caliber than most people. So if you've achieved something in your life, feel free to use it, right? If it's relatable to moving you forward and progressing, there's no shame in that. You've worked for it. But it took him 15 years of going through the workforce and getting that experience and going through school and building those relationships to get to the point where he could send emails out like that and create those relational data points or speak to the success that he's had over time. Not saying that your startup is going to take 15 years. If it's a good one, to get to the scale that you want to, it may. But know that it might, if you think it might take a month or two, probably take 6 at the very least. If you think it might take 6, double it, maybe even triple it, just to be safe, so you prep properly. But we'll dive a little bit into that. But I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that in month 7, I think this is, right? Officially.
I'm just counting the beginning. I'm just counting January as our start, realistically.
Yeah. Technically it was like December.
I would
So
say
we'll
we
say
ramped up. Like
4.
we didn't know it was going to be a venture studio until January. So I'm counting January.
That's true, actually. I went back and saw some outreach that I made to somebody where I was like, hey, this is the direction that I think we're going to go. Would love your perspective and insight on it. That was in the middle of January. Wild.
It's solidified now.
It is fully solidified. It's got teeth. It's got traction. Things are moving forward.
Yeah, we can pitch slap all day long at this point
Oh
on
yeah,
a
and we're pitch
dime.
slapping, aren't we? Oh, I thought we were pitch slapping right now. We kind of are.
Eh. Okay, let's close out.
Anyway, hope you all are having an amazing week. It is the beginning of May, which is wild. And just make sure to spend some time questioning yourself and be there for yourself and reach out to your network and cultivate your circle so you have some more people in it with you for open communication. Have an awesome weekend. Peace.